So welcome back guys to another video, and yes, it is now 2024, and what better way to celebrate the new year than talk about some games that officially turned 20 years old this year. And 2004 was an interesting year. I had a lot more hair on my head. I was working at a video game store. I was working at Babbage's before it was bought out by GameStop, and I was enjoying the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, the GameCube, and a lot of iconic games. So before I get into it, guys, leave a comment below. Tell me some of your favorite games that turned 20 years old this year. Let's get into it. So the first game I want to talk about is kind of ironic because we just saw a trailer for the newest entry. Well, I'm talking about Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Turns 20 years old this year, and the main plot revolves around CJ's return to his hometown of Los Santos after the murder of his mother. CJ finds himself caught up in the criminal activities of his former gang, the Grove Street families, and the large context of gang wars and corruptions of the state of San Andreas. The narrative does explore family, loyalty, betrayal, and the pursuit of the American dream. You know, back then, Grand Theft Auto and Rockstar was doing things we had never seen in video games. Like, in my opinion, I had never played a game to that point that eating mattered. Like, if you didn't eat enough, your character would get skinny, or if you ate too much, your character would get fat. And the fact the game takes place in the 90s, you know, an era that I was growing up in, you know, I have an older sister, and I remember listening to, you know, Tupac and Biggie, and the Chronic album was iconic, and being able to relive that a little bit older, a little bit more experienced, living through that through a video game, I thought was really, really cool. What was funny is, like, this was 2004. This was before YouTube. My friends and I would hook our VCR up to like our PS2 using the composite cables, and we would record some of our favorite stunts, some of our favorite, you know, kills, or getting our wanted levels, the stars all the way filled up, and try to see how long you could survive. And you know, we would go back and watch these, and this is like before, you know, now we have Let's Plays and people just recording and uploading whole full gameplay footage. It was really something special at the time, and I'm looking forward to Grand Theft Auto 6, but I'll go on and say that San Andreas just has a special place in my heart. Now, this game was an event. This game was something special. It was iconic, and I'm talking about Halo 2. Halo 2 turns 20 years old this year. Who would have thought? I mean, when I was working at Babbage's at the time, I remember we would have our midnight release parties. And there was another video game store in the mall. I don't know if you guys remember, EB Games. And this is before we all got bought out by GameStop. So we were rivals. We fought each other. When it came to these midnight releases, we were always trying to compete who had the best midnight release party. I remember, you know, going to EB Games, and I heard they were ordering pizza for their midnight release of Halo 2. And I told my manager, I was almost like a spy, because I was one of the good friends of one of the guys that worked at EB, but I would go there and kind of find out what was going on. And I went over there and I'm like, yeah, they got pizza over there. So we got pizza, wings, and we rented a television, one of those big projector televisions. I remember it took me and like 3 other people to push this big mammoth through the mall lobby. But we had it at midnight, and I remember so many folks. We had a LAN party, so many folks playing Halo 2. It was actually the first game I ever played online using Xbox Live. I was at a friend's house who had an Xbox, and I remember holding that big Duke controller and just getting owned every 5 seconds and hearing, you know, all the obscenities on the headsets. But yeah, this was a very special game. This is a game that, you know, Halo took the first-person shooter genre to a whole new level when it came to home consoles. And this was like the second helping, and even better. And I think this was also one of the first games I ever saw that had DLC. Something that would become a norm 20 years later. It all started, in my opinion, with Halo 2. I still had the strategy guide to this next game that's turning 20 years old, and we're actually getting a remake on the Nintendo Switch. I never would have thought. But that is Paper Mario and a Thousand-Year Door. The story begins with Mario receiving a mysterious map from Princess Peach, who is on a quest to find the legendary treasure hidden within the Thousand-Year Door in the town of Rogueport. However, Peach goes missing, and Mario, along with his new partner, Goombella, travels to Rogueport to investigate. As Mario collects the crystal stars needed to unlock the Thousand-Year Door, he also uncovers a dark plot involving an ancient demon and the secret organization known as the X-Knots. I bought the strategy guide and the game 20 years ago at Circuit City. Place that's no longer around. Rest in peace, Circuit City. But I missed out on Paper Mario on the Nintendo 64. I didn't have a 64 at the time. I had a PlayStation, and I was always a big fan of Mario RPG on the Super Nintendo, and I always heard that Paper Mario were kind of like the spiritual successor to that series. So I had to get Paper Mario to Thousand Year Door, and I'm so glad I did, because it is such a delightful game. It's got such a great story, the banter, the writing, the battle system. It's just something special. And, playing as this, paper cutout of Mario turning into a paper airplane or a boat. I mean, it sounds hokey now, but that was some really, really cool stuff back then that we'd never seen before. It's going to be nice when the Paper Mario remake comes out. I'll have this strategy guide out, the official guide from Nintendo Power. There's just so much that I'm showing off today, guys, that we just don't have anymore. It's crazy. But looking at this guide, playing the remake, it's going to be like going through a time capsule. It's going to be really, really cool. I cannot wait. I can't believe this game is 20 years old. And the last game I want to talk about, I feel like it's probably one of the most iconic releases of 2004. For me, anyway. Being a huge Dragon Quest fan, 2004 we saw the release of Dragon Quest VIII. In Dragon Quest VIII, it follows a silent protagonist and his party of allies as they journey towards the goal of defeating the wicked Dulmangus, a court jester who set a curse upon the kingdom. Now you have a very diverse group of characters as well, including Yangus, Jessica, and Angelo with their own unique abilities and backstories. Together they travel across a vibrant and expansive world, battling monsters, solving puzzles, and uncovering the mystery behind Dulmangus's actions. This game is not only a great RPG, but a great way to get into the series, and I feel like the series has really elevated since the release of Dragon Quest VIII, because, Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior was very popular in Japan at the time, but in the States it was kind of bare bones. It was kind of, some people liked it, some people didn't. Some people had never played it. Some of my friends that I knew that played Dragon Warrior back in the day, I would try to always talk to them because I didn't really have a whole lot of people to talk about Dragon Warrior with. It was the first game I played when I was 5 years old on the NES. It helped me learn how to read. I thought JRPGs were just so much more interesting than any book I had ever read at the time. I mean, I was 5 years old, give me a break. But yeah, Dragon Quest VIII was also the first release from Square Enix. Squaresoft bought out Enix, and to see Dragon Quest with a demo of Final Fantasy XII, looking back, and of course this was 2005 when it came to the States, so I'm kind of cheating with the 2004 because it came out, that time in Japan. It was about as weird as seeing Sonic on the cover of Nintendo Power, because Enix and Squaresoft were rivals. Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy were always butting heads, in my opinion. So it was just weird to see that all on one package. But what an iconic game. What a great game. It has some beautiful art from Akira Toriyama. It's got, fully orchestrated soundtrack. It felt like you were just hearing this symphony playing, and the party was a lot smaller. And that's one of the things I've always noted about Dragon Quest VIII, where previous Dragon Quest games, you always had 6 or 7 party members, and this one you only had 4. Unless you played the 3DS, you get 2 more characters. But yeah, you only had 4 characters, and I felt like that gave it more time for the characters to breathe and more time for the characters to develop, and it was a lot of fun. And it's one of those games that I'm surprised we still haven't gotten at least an HD remaster re-release of Dragon Quest VIII. There are a lot of people. This game's 20 years old. There's a lot of people out in the world today that have never played this game, and I think Square Enix would really benefit just to re-release this. I would buy it day one, just saying. Freaking amazing game. But anyway, guys, those are some games that are turning 20 years old this year, and it's just hard to believe when I was looking at all the releases of that year and thinking about where I was at that time. It feels like it was yesterday but it was so long ago. But what are some of your favorite games that were released 20 years ago? Leave a comment below. Maybe you're a big Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater fan, or maybe some stuff on the Game Boy Advance. Gaming was a very different time back then, and I'd love to hear some of your stories. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, but also hit the bell for notifications so you're notified on all future videos that come out on this channel. Anyway, guys, as always, I want to thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and as always, happy gaming.